Welcome to all viewers and followers of Telesmundo and the YouTube channel of Arm Wrestling Show. Today we are pleased to have the great arm wrestler Todd Hutchings, also known as Toddzilla. A kind regard to Todd, welcome and thank you so much for accepting this invitation.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
If you agree so, let's get started with the questions. At what age did you start practicing this sport as a professional?
I started arm wrestling at 35 years old. And when I started, there were no amateurs. So everybody was a professional when I started.
Ah, nice. Why do you think people should starting arm wrestling?
Well, it is a sport that you could start late in life and continue for very long. So if you're looking for a competitive strength-based sport, there's not too many things out there available for you. If fight any sport with a ball, you pretty much have to stop when you're in your 30s or 40s. Any combat sport, you probably have to stop when you're 20s or 30s. So if you're looking for, now you can power lift and weight lift and stuff, but that's more of a competition against yourself than against somebody else. So if you're looking for a one-on-one competitive sport that you can do late into your life, arm wrestling's it. And every once in a while, you can make money at it. Not always, but every once in a while, the leagues come along and it pays well.
What do you want to say to all those gym goers, bodybuilders, and those who practice calisthenics and criticize our sport for being dangerous?
Football, any of those high contact sports, football, boxing, maybe UFC, arm wrestling is maybe a broken bone, detached tendons, that kind of stuff. And those injuries are serious, but they're repairable and they're known and they're preventable. So there's not a whole lot of danger in arm wrestling. It's probably not as safe as, say, pure weightlifting, but there's not a lot. I mean, there's nothing life-threatening about it. There's no long-term effects from arm wrestling that I'm aware of, except the fact that you can't ever throw a ball again. But by and large, arm wrestling's really, it's pretty safe. It hurts, but you're not going to suffer any long-term effects from arm wrestling.
Do you think that including arm wrestling exercise in the training routine of bodybuilder or powerlifter could improve their overall performance?
I do not think arm wrestling exercises will improve the performance of any other sport. I think arm wrestling exercises might very well hurt you from other sports, because most arm wrestlers I know have less flexibility, less reach. They're obviously stronger, but I'm not so sure arm wrestling exercises as a whole would improve any other sports that I can think of. Now we have good hands, although that's not true.
Right.
An arm wrestling friend of mine, Brandon Allen, stopped arm wrestling for a while and got into mixed martial arts fighting. And what he said was his hands were so strong that when he gripped up with somebody, they couldn't escape from him. So if he grabbed somebody by the back of the neck or grabbed somebody by the wrist, his hands were so strong that his competitors and his opponents basically couldn't escape from him. So any sport like that, wrestling, grappling, UFC maybe, that requires, strong hands, arm wrestlers can definitely teach them something. But general other sports, I'm not so sure. Arm wrestling is a pretty specialized sport, right? We're primarily arm strength type folks. So I'm not so sure it would be advantageous if you were a bodybuilder or a wrestler or somebody to want to take on arm wrestling exercises. But I don't know. That's a very interesting question. Nobody's ever asked me before. I'm not exactly sure.
In your opinion, what is more important in this sport? A good attack or a good self-defense?
I would say a good defense. If you got a good defense, then the people who study attacks, you can probably stop the match and turn it around to your victory. Where if you got a good attack and somebody's able to thwart that, you don't have many options left. So myself, I would think concentrate on a good attack, maintain good position always, be able to pull the long matches. A good attack is very good, especially for those people who can do very fast matches. But a lot of times when you see those wicked fast top rollers and stuff, if they get stopped, they don't have options. Whereas somebody with a good defense always has options. And it's probably easier to slow a match down than to win one off go. So my personal opinion would be to make sure you have a good defense first. Good forms, good fundamentals, good defense, and then worry about attacking.
In which order would you rate the importance of strength, technique, and speed when it comes to an arm wrestling match?
I would say strength first, because no matter how good your technique is, you got to have a basic level of strength to utilize it. So if you don't have a fundamental basic level of strength, technique's not going to help you. A super lightweight guy is not going to be a super heavyweight guy, even if the super heavyweight guy is crazy strong with no technique. But you will pick up technique in time. So, you just practice, tournaments, everything else will give you technique. So I would definitely concentrate on proper strength, functional strength.
How often do you currently train for arm wrestling?
I am currently training 11 times a week.
Wow, 11 times.
11 times a week. Yes, I train every single morning, and I train 4 evenings.
You are training every day.
Yes, I train 7 mornings a week and 4 evenings a week.
As regard the training itself, do you think it is more important the number of repetition than the weight, or combination of both?
I think heavy weight training is more important, but it's very hard to increase your heavy weight training without repetition. So my primary training is to increase my heavyweight lifts, but you can't train at max effort all the time. So you have to do a lot of repetition work in order to increase your heavyweight training. Some people do only repetition work. I do not. I think that is wrong. I think you do repetition work to support heavy day training. So I do 1, 2, I do between 2 and 3 max effort trainings a week. So 2 to 3 times a week, I'm lifting as much as I can once. And then the rest of the week, I'm doing repetition work mostly.
Wow, fantastic. Are you doing a specific diet as regard your preparation?
No, when I had to cut weight, when I had to make weight for a weight class, I watched my diet. But right now, I just compete in a super heavyweight class. So, I make sure I get enough of the fundamental foods, enough carbs, enough fat, enough protein, and then I just eat a whole bunch of carbs on top of it just to to try to gain weight. But I'm not on any special diet at this point, because I don't have to make weight. I weigh 220 pounds and I arm wrestle people who weigh 300 to 400 pounds. So I'm pretty much allowed to eat anything I want.
What's your opinion about the straps rules between Devon and Levan at King of the Table 4?
I think that's silly. They should have. I think it's silly that this match has been announced for months and they don't know what the rules are. myself, I think if you want special rule, if you don't agree on a certain set of rules, that should have all been hashed out beforehand. I don't know what the real story is. I only know what I'm reading, but I think you should be able to negotiate any set of rules you want. You know, as long as both people agree and they agree that's what the match is, I don't see a problem with it. But it seems weird that this match was announced a long time ago and just now the rules aren't understood. But that's probably more a problem of negotiation than arm wrestling.
But should be automatic strap after 30 seconds or not?
That was WAL rules, and the WAL announced that. So I didn't have a problem with it, you know, because they were notified way in advance. I mean, there's a lot of leagues and there's a lot of different rules out there. And, you know, as long as it's understood ahead of time, and I think it's the arm wrestler's job to understand the rules before the match. I don't think the rules should be argued on Facebook, but
right.
I wonder if a lot of this is just trying to build publicity for the match too.
And without the rule, do you think Levan can't prevent Devon from getting the straps?
From what I've seen, Levan, or what his name is,
Levan.
I don't think I've seen him lose a round, and I think he's a good enough arm wrestler to pretty much do whatever he wants with whoever he wants. I think in the last 2 or 3 years, I don't think I've seen him pinned in 3 years. Now I don't follow it religiously. Maybe he did, you know, and I don't find it, but he's won every single one of them.
Do you want challenge Levan?
Not yet. I will challenge Levan next year.
Next year. And change argument. What's your opinion about Larry Wills and his Dubai events, king of the table?
Oh, I like the king of the table events. I think it's impressive. I think it was smart to do that during COVID. To be honest, I'm surprised other people didn't. I'm surprised WAL and PAL and these other leagues didn't do that. You know, I mean, it seems COVID came around, arm wrestling shut down. Larry Wheels, who's not an arm wrestler, is now running some of the biggest, best arm wrestling events ever. And all these leagues that were doing it professionally didn't. And I was like, that just shows you the beauty of capitalism, right? Anybody can make something work if you just try it.
Would you like to compete there?
Oh, who do I want to compete against in this area?
Yes.
Oh, I don't have anybody specifically in mind. I'm a aging professional arm wrestler, so I arm wrestle anybody who wants it. If there was a league or something where there was money for a championship, then I would probably want to drop down to middleweight and win that. But at this point, I'm happy just arm wrestling whoever comes along. So promoters ask me if I want a match. I agree to a match. I don't even know who I'm competing against when I accept a match. So I'm in a different mindset than most other people.
Could you teach Larry any different technique or training system that?
Oh my God, yes! I could make Larry a champion in less than a year. I don't know who's coaching him now, but he's getting too much help from top rollers. I could teach that boy how to be strong.
And what is missing, in your opinion, to finally be able to win a super match?
His arm's not strong. He's concentrating too much on his hand. He needs to get that arm. He needs to stop losing. So as a beginners, when you're just starting out, it takes years to get your hand strong, right? So if you're going to be a hand-based arm wrestler, then you're going to lose for years. But he knows how to get strong and how to lift weights. If he was concentrating on making his elbow strong and wedging that arm in there and not getting pinned, even though somebody took his hand, he could start winning matches now, and that hand strength would come along eventually. But it's hard to get. the hands get strong pretty quick, but arm wrestlers have been training their hands for years. So if you've been training your hand for 3 years and if you're fighting somebody who's been training his hand for 10 years, the chances are no matter how much money you got, you're at a disadvantage. But you can make your arm strong pretty quickly. But it takes a while to get your hands strong. And we're getting better at training hands. The way we used to train our hands 10 years ago, nobody trains that anymore. So we're getting better at hand training, but that's a big deficit to make up to start years behind other people and try to catch up to them.
For you, the big problem with the Larry and the ends.
I would be coaching Larry to get into the straps, make it a match about the arms, and he's got good shoulder strength. He's probably got good arm strength. We would just need to fix his elbows for a little bit, and we could definitely get him performing better.
Have you ever compete in Arm Wars?
I've never been in Arm Wars.
Never. Why not?
I was invited a few times, but at the time it didn't pay very much money, and I was making more money. I arm wrestle for money. I don't arm wrestle for titles I go to the tournaments and the leagues and stuff that pay money.
Which is your favorite competition? Both tournament and super match?
I prefer super matches.
Super match.
Yeah, I prefer super matches. They're easier for me now to train for. It's harder to prepare for a tournament. You have to be more well-rounded. You need more practice on the table. It's less gym time. Super matches are probably more gym time, less table time, and that's just easier for me. But I was happy. The WAL was tournaments for the first 4 or 5 years, and I did very well in that. I thought it was going to be tournaments forever, so I wouldn't be a super heavyweight as a tournament arm wrestler because I don't think I could arm wrestle a whole tournament as a super heavyweight, but I can arm wrestle a super match as a super heavyweight.
Which was the biggest one?
The biggest one for me is in 2014, the WAL championship in New Orleans. I won right-handed and left-handed, and I won $40,000 that day.
Wow. $40,000.
And I also won some UAL tournaments that year. That year, I made $50,000 arm wrestling.
Wow. Many more.
That was a good year. Now, I haven't done that since then, but in 2014, I made a lot of money.
Do you have the manager on you alone?
I'm all by myself.
For yourself, yes.
Yeah, no manager.
You are the manager, yourself.
I am the manager. Todd Hutchings is the manager for Godzilla.
Godzilla. Who are your 3 favorite pullers of all the time and why?
Well, everybody likes John because he's the greatest. But my favorite all-time arm wrestler ever is Gabriela Vasconcelos,
the Brasileña.
She is my favorite arm wrestler of all time.
You are training with the Gabri.
I've never met Gabby.
If you were a beginners again and had to start training, what would you do differently?
I would worry less about tournaments and more about I would go to different practices and I'd practice more than I would compete. I would buy a pulling machine first and a wrist wrench. I would get a real arm wrestling training routine as soon as possible. Too many arm wrestlers just make stuff up. They go into the gym and they invent their own workouts, their own routines. I would find a powerlifting coach or a weightlifting coach or somebody who knows how to make power. And I would do that. I think that would have sped up my arm wrestling career maybe 6 years.
What would you tell to the new people in the sport about training side pressure?
I would tell them to train. Well, not just side pressure. You got to train everything, but you can't neglect side pressure. Too many arm wrestlers try to learn a trick. They try to learn King's move, or they try to learn, you got to develop your overall arm. And side pressure is the quickest way of getting your arm strong. So when I started, everybody trained hook or top roll. I am saying you got to train, all three. You should do a max effort day on all three eventually. You got to develop that all-round power. I would definitely coach max effort work, not just repetition work. A lot of arm wrestlers train like bodybuilders do. So they do a lot of repetition work. They don't do a lot of max effort stuff. I think the max effort's the key. And something that very few arm wrestlers do, which would be very helpful, would be isometrics. Training up against a hard stop,
Right.
That allows you to train
very,
very heavy weights without getting sore. So that's very beneficial for arm wrestlers to train heavy and not get sore.
Nice. Are top effort lift safe for beginners?
Yes, absolutely. I train everybody the same. Beginners, women, experienced lifters, everybody start. Yeah, you have to do your max effort lifts to begin with, or else you don't know how strong you are. And you've got no way of knowing where your weak points are. So you have to do those.
Would you recommend the side pressure training for top rollers?
Absolutely. Because if you're a top roller and you run into me, and I stop the match, you're going to have some side pressure, or else I'm going to pin you.
Fantastic. Do you think arm wrestling would finally be an Olympic sport someday?
I don't think the arm wrestling will be in the Olympics ever. Never, ever, 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 ever. The Olympics has basically become a great big political organization like the United Nations, and I don't think arm wrestlers have enough political power or clout to get it in there. So no, I don't think arm wrestling will ever be in the Olympics. If it's not now, it never will be. Now, new sports will be added all the time, because great big companies and stuff will fund it. But I don't think you'll ever see arm wrestling in the Olympics.
What's your opinion about the King's move technique?
It was interesting for a while, but when you start putting attention and money into a sport, you're going to start seeing innovations like that. It wasn't a favorite of mine, but I never wanted to outlaw it or ban it. I just figured, all right, somebody else is going to figure out how to beat it, and it's just one more technique. I don't train it. I don't ever plan to use it. I'm too short to use it, so I'll never use it. But I don't care if other people do. I don't think it should be a foul. Those rules should be agreed to ahead of time, but I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't have a problem with it.
Have you ever been to Spain?
I've never been to Spain.
No.
My mom has, but I haven't.
What do you know about this country?
What do I know about Spain? I know
and Europe.
King Ferdinand funded Christopher Columbus. I know, let's see, Baroque. I know you found it. I know you guys I know Spain did a lot of settlement in Florida. Florida and California was settled by a lot of Spaniards, at the beginning of my country. Other than that, not too much else. There was I learned about some Spanish wars in high school, but high school was a long time ago.
You live in Ohio, Columbus.
I live in Ohio.
Columbus, casualty. This
Columbus is
Columbus.
the capital city of Ohio, but we have a lot of
The
we have a
capital.
lot of towns and cities and streets named after Columbus. We have a Columbus Day. We have a whole holiday for Christopher Columbus.
Nah, I change the questions. Change question. Do you have a plan? Do you have a plans regarding traveling across Europe and making seminars or meeting in order to disseminate the sport?
I would love to do that. I have no plans to do that.
Maybe next year, if you want to go here in May, Iceland, Gran Canaria for the seminars.
I would love to do that. Would be awesome.
Nice.
I'll do that right before I arm wrestle Levon after he beats Devin.
I win. I win, Levan. I win.
Okay.
I'm joking. Yeah, there was the final question. But before ending this interview, can you show your biceps?
That one right there makes all the money.
This fantastic biceps. Thank you for.
Thank you very much. You're very kind.
Thank you. I'm happy. Thank you for sharing all this video with the training tips, exercise, and advice.
All right, I'll keep doing it. I got hundreds of videos left to make.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Original training.
That'll build you a good wrist right there. That's what Larry Wheels needs to do. Tell Larry to watch that video.
Yes, but you have the original training. I see your channel. I invited my friends follow you in your channel. In the description, I put the link.
All right.
Once again, thank you for accepting this interview. You are very welcome to come to Gran Canaria as our guest.
Then I'll come. I'll be in touch and I'll be there.
You are come here for the challenge Levan.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay, I'll see you soon, Todd.
Yep. Bye now.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.